Hello everybody, it's me, Patrick, here with a mini lecture on how time management doesn't work. This lecture is a shorter version of a full 1-hour workshop of the same name that I have conducted in person at Lone Star College Sci-Fair. That larger lecture was in turn inspired by a TEDx talk that I delivered in the fall of 2015. So I'm sure we've all heard the phrase, time is money. This is one of the most common metaphors for time out there. And the language we use surrounding time revolves around financial transactions. We say that we spend time on a particular activity, that we save time by taking a shortcut, that we need to borrow time from a friend or a coworker. And indeed, we are all told that we should manage time, just like we should manage our money. The notion that time is money is everywhere. But I want to examine the flaws in this metaphor by first looking at money management. Now imagine we had two people each with their own bank account. Person one has $1,000 in the account and person two has $1 million in their account. I'm a little closer to the one on the left. Now let's say that each person withdrew $100 from their respective accounts. How would they spend their money differently? Well, it's pretty obvious that the person with $1 million in their account would probably not put a lot of thought into how to spend that $100. After all, they have $999,900 more saved up. But the person who has $1,000 now has taken 10% of their savings. They will probably be much more thoughtful about how they spend that money. Now let's imagine that there's a bank of time. This bank contains all of the time for the rest of your life. So let's say you make a withdrawal of 1 hour to watch a television show or take a nap or work on your online class. So you have your bank. You took 1 hour out. Now, how much time is left in this bank? That is, how many more hours do you have in the rest of your life? Well, the answer is pretty simple. You don't know. Okay, you don't know your balance. But can you make a deposit in this bank? Can you replenish or grow your account? Of course, the answer is no. Now, if this was a real bank with real money, if you took $100 out, you could also make that back. You can make money, but you can't make time. And with a real bank, you always know how much you have left with your money. But with time, you have no idea. So, if you didn't know how much money was left in your bank account, and there was no way to make more deposits, how would you spend the money in your account differently? If you knew every time you took money out of your bank that it might be the last withdrawal you could ever make, how would that change the way you treat that money? Now, I'm not trying to be morbid or depressing, but the fact is that none of us knows our account balance in the bank of time. Hopefully, everybody watching this video has another 50, 60, or 70 more years of time in your account. But in reality, we just don't know. So, time is not money. It's not even close. If we lose $100 on a wasteful investment, we can always make it back. But if we lose an hour of our life doing something that was extremely wasteful, well, that is time we'll never see again. This means we should treat time like the most precious resource we have, because that's exactly what it is. So, I have a little confession to make. This workshop is mistitled. Instead of time management doesn't work, I should have called this time management doesn't exist. And that's because you can't manage something you can't control. You can manage money because you control what you do with your money. You get to choose how to spend it, when to save it, when to give it away, when to invest it. But you don't control time. Time moves forward whether you want it to or not. You can't manage something you can't control, so time management doesn't exist. If you only get one thing out of this video, it's that you should stop using the term time management. Stop trying to manage your time. Stop allowing others to tell you to manage your time. Gently tell those people that you can't manage what you can't control. So, what can we control? The one thing we can always control is our choices. Think about it. How many choices do you make every day? Probably tens of thousands. Even just getting up in the morning, you make dozens of choices. Your alarm goes off and you hit the snooze button. That's a choice. You might hit snooze a few more times. Before you even get out of bed, you might have made 5 or 6 choices. Then you choose what to wear, what to eat, whether to brush your teeth or not, what way to drive to work or school, and on and on and on. There are so many choices in the day, and we don't think about most of them. but they do exist, and we do make them. So, here are some key takeaways from this workshop that can help us manage our choices. First, we need to realize that everything is a choice. Going to work, picking up your kids after work, doing your assignments for class. These are all choices. We need to avoid the no choice fallacy. This is what happens whenever we say, we have to. No, we never have to anything. Are there consequences to not making certain choices? Well, of course. We don't go to work, we lose our job. We don't pick up our kids, they get neglected, and they get taken away. We don't do our schoolwork, and we get lower grades. Some choices are easier than others, but we always have a choice. The moment we stop saying we have to do blank is the moment we free ourselves from the prison of our circumstances. Next, we should be deliberate about the choices we're making. We should ask ourselves, are the choices we're making right now going to help us achieve our future goals in some way? If they're not, we might ask, why am I making this choice? Be deliberate about these choices and we'll be much more likely to find success. Another way to find success is to get better at filling the time we have available to us with choices that will advance our goals. This means we should schedule our time when it's important. We have so much unstructured time sometimes that we put things off, and that means the important stuff in our lives is often not done well. And here's a pro tip. We should schedule more time than we think we need to get things like schoolwork done. That way we can actually work ahead for future weeks. Don't just do the bare minimum. Start working ahead. Finally, we need to get our priorities straight. School should never be your number one priority, including the class you're taking with me this semester. If you ever have the attitude that my class is more important than any other part of your life, you need to change that attitude. I don't want this to be the most important thing to you, so you shouldn't make it that either. Most important should be your family. If you have family relying on you for something. Next, if you have a job that you need in order to pay rent, food, or transportation costs, that should be your second priority. Third would be school. If you have other obligations such as volunteering, clubs, and so forth, those would probably come after school. But wait, I forgot something. You! You are the most important thing in your life. If you aren't taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. When you're in an airplane, the first thing they tell you is to put the oxygen mask on before you help people traveling with you. Because if you're out of commission, you can't help anybody else. So, take care of your body and your brain. Sleep at least 7 hours a night. Keep a fairly healthy diet. Stay physically active. These will help keep your body on track. And also keep your brain on track. Give yourself some you time, where you don't have any responsibilities, where you can just relax. That's for your mental health. So to recap, time is not money. And in fact, time management doesn't exist. We need to replace time management with the notion of choice management and stop being prisoners of our circumstances, because everything is a choice. And we need to make those choices deliberately and plan how we want to spend our time. And we also need to keep our priorities straight, putting ourselves first, then our family, then work if we need it for our survival, and finally school. This is the order of how you should choose to use the time you have in your life. Will you make mistakes? Yes, you will. I have taught this workshop dozens of times, and I still make mistakes every day. But that's a conversation for another day. In my next workshop, make mistakes work for you. Until then, make your choices